anterior thoracic wall. I know this is a blood vessel and it has to be dorsally or whatever. Nothing else. Okay. So, esophagus. The part of the esophagus between the top part of the stomach is going to be what? Cardiac sphincter. So we go esophagus, cardiac sphincter, the area below the cardiac sphincter of the stomach. This area would be called the cardia. This area, this round funnel area, right, is going to be called the fundus. The next area, this area is called the body. And the area just before I get to the duodenum, this part right here, is called the pyloric sphincter.
So fundus, body, and pyloric sphincter.
Cardiac sphincter. Then we go into
The cardia.
cardia,
The
fundus, the body. I should say this before, pylorus, and then we have a pyloric sphincter. All right? The sphincters are responsible for propelling the food in one direction. All right? If I have a problem with cardiac sphincter, then I get reflux into the esophagus. If I have a problem with the pyloric sphincter, food is moved back into what? The stomach. All right? So, get to pyloric sphincter. Once I'm at pyloric sphincter, now what am I on? The duodenum. Once I go into the duodenum, I'm in what?
Jejunum.
So this is all this stuff. Okay. So this is all jejunum. What membrane is this called? Mesentery. All right. So now with this, be very careful in cat. All right. So this is all jejunum over here. Once I get up here, I'm into, this is ileum. I know this is ileum because this is the, I cut it open now. What's that blind sac called of the large intestine? Cats don't have an appendix. But yes, in us, the appendix hangs from the cecum.
So it has to be the cecum then.
This is the cecum.
Okay,
All
so I
right.
was asking.
The end. So the ileum. You see how I'm holding this? I'm holding the ileum in my right hand. The ileum will end in the blind sac of the large intestine called what? The cecum. It opens into something called the.
Ileocecum.
There it is. Called the ileocecal valve. You need to know what this looks like because I'm putting it on there. It's in your book too. It's a picture straight in your book. So the junction of the ileum to the cecum, ileocecal valve. Why is the ileocecal valve important? Do I want reflux back into the small intestine? No. All right? Yes. Okay. So, ileocecal valve found in the cecum. All right? It's the junction of the ileum and the cecum. All right. So, what's the last part of the small intestine?
Oh, wait, the ileum.
The ileum. Okay? What forms between the large intestine and the ileum? The ileocecal valve. The cecum is the blind sac. If you have a more herbivorous diet, you're going to have a larger cecum. Some animals have more than one cecum, right? Because it has indigestible, it has material that needs, right, like cows. Okay. So once we move up from the cecum, this part is called the ascending colon. This part that sits transversely, so this is ascending colon. This part is the transverse colon with its associated transverse mesocolon. So its mesentery is called transverse mesocolon. It suspends a transverse colon from what? The posterior abdominal wall. All right? Ascending colon, transverse colon, descending colon. I'm on it right now. Descending colon ends as the rectum. All right. People get this confused all the time. The anus and the rectum are not the same thing. All right? Rectum is the ending of what?
The large intestine.
Of the large intestine. The conspicuous manifestation of that area out here, which is this, is the anus. All right? The anus has a sphincter. All right? Okay. So we went what? Cecum, ascending colon, transverse colon, descending colon, rectum, and it will
Go to the anus.
get to the anus. Okay.
Where does the bladders come in to affect
bladder?
the kidneys?
Oh, bladder's going to be in front of it.
Are we doing that next week?
Yes.
Right. Okay. Never mind.
This is bladder.
I was just getting ahead of
This is
myself.
bladder right here. And this membrane is important now because I'll get to it next week because this is for the obliterated umbilical artery. Remember, in fetal circulation, it's totally different. Umbilical vein carries oxygenated blood. Umbilical artery carries deoxygenated blood. It's reverse. All right? Okay. When we get to circulatory, we'll talk about that.
Is that next week?
Yes.
Which lobe is this?
Quadrate.
Quadrate.
Quadrate is the first three ones you're going to see. Left anterior, quadrate, right anterior with my cystic fossa. All right. Last thing, respiratory. So it goes trachea, what? Primary bronchi, then there's secondary and tertiary. Then we go into bronchioles. Then we have what's called alveolar ducts, and those terminate into alveoli. All right? Alveoli, this is important, is the site of gas exchange. All right? So what happens to somebody who has asthma?
I do.
So it's not that, well, it actually has to deal with the production of something called surfactant. All right? Surfactant allows the elasticity of the alveoli. All right. So this can also be seen in somebody like someone who's older, like emphysema, or you've heard of COPD. You're actually getting the alveoli walls are becoming rigid, less elastic. All right?
I don't have elasticity in my surfactant. That sucks.
Surfactant is what's produced, is what's secreted. Okay.
From the,
That's a whole histology you learn all
No,
about.
I wanted to know it.
Okay, so from the lung, this right here, from the trachea, it branches into what? A primary bronchus, right? One bronchus. And then I branch into these two things. Two, you see no bronchioles. I can't see bronchioles. These are secondary bronchi.
Okay.
If we have time next week in the cadaver lab, I will take out a human lung for you and show you. Yeah, next week. Tuesday, April 9th, 8:30. But please show up a little bit earlier. Because I'm
Where are we going to? Are y'all gonna send an email?
foyer 1008. I'll send it out.
No, there's
No, that's
we just had a
no.
quiz today.
But she said we had a.
Thursday.
Our teachers were told.
All right. So remember the things that are conspicuous that you can see. All right. I'll show you one. Yeah, I'll show you one when I get into the lab down there. We have things called bronchopulmonary segments, and when someone has lung cancer, you can remove one without removing the entire lung. All right. Okay. So you have from the trachea. That's this. From the trachea, we move into a primary bronchus. Right there. I don't want to cut it off. Okay. So these 1, 2 secondary bronchi.
So it's primary bronchus and secondary bronchi. Okay, and the tertiary one?
You can't. I'm not going to dig through the lungs.
Can you do secondary bronchi?
Okay. Primary bronchus. Primary bronchus. And then secondary bronchi. Okay. All right. That's it. Where does gas exchange occur? Alveoli. Oh, we didn't name the lobes.
Of the lungs?
Yeah. You guys have it in your book, so make sure you know those. All right?
Here you go.